All right, guys, at this time, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our moderator, from Entertainment Weekly, Emily Rome.
Thanks so much for coming out, you guys. So now you all know what aliens really are. I'm very... Oh, can you hear me a little better now? Okay. So we have two actors from Grimm tonight, and I would like to welcome to the stage Silas Weir Mitchell and Reggie Lee. Well, thanks so much for coming out, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm. I think they might need the mics for the video.
You hear me back there?
Really? Okay.
I'm going to try to get all actor in before we go to the microphone.
Well, congrats on the season 3 pickup, you guys.
I know.
Thank you.
Knock on some wood. Thank you.
More Grimm adventures.
It's very exciting.
So Grimm, of course, is kind of this merging of the procedural and the fantasy genres. So just to start off with, I want to hear a little bit from you guys about when you first got started on the show. How did you kind of figure out how to balance those two genres? How did you figure out what the tone of the show was?
I think that's more interesting for you. You go first.
Speak for yourself. I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't. I remember when we shot the pilot, I remember the first time I had to morph, and we were out. And I was like, what is this? Like, I didn't know what it was, because, you've seen people transform, I know there are examples, I can't think of any right now, like the Transformers, but there are, what? Okay, there you go, the Changeling. So there's a history of people changing shape, but in our particular mythology, the idea of you get a little agitated, you lose yourself, and I literally, and how does it physically manifest? It was a totally game time sort of instinctual move, and there were, David and Jim, the showrunners and creators, were on set, and it was, this kind of thing, and then, it was really finding it on the day. So as far as like the deeper thing of the genre understanding, I don't think in those terms so much, because you just sort of think about what you have to do. But it certainly was an interesting experience to feel really out on a limb and not know, like, looking back to the guys being like, was that anything like what you think you wanted it to be at all? And they're going like... And you're like, yeah, all right, it's a pilot. It's like, yeah, it's great. Just keep doing what you're doing.
These two guys are incredibly supportive. We've been really, really kind of lucky and blessed to get two guys who treat us like their sons, for lack of a better
Yeah, they're very familial.
word. It's very familial. Our group is boringly familial. We boringly get
There's
along.
no conflict.
It's terrible.
An interviewer today,
It's
someone's like,
terrible.
I wanted you to dish. I was like, no, there's no real
dish.
addition to be done. We're all like really love each other and happy to be there.
And you two go pretty far back, right? You knew each other before Grimm. Reggie was telling me. You had the
We don't
same
go
age.
way back, but we go back. I mean,
We do go back.
We're too old to go. Well, I won't speak for you, but I'm too old to
No,
say
I'm
that.
with you.
Say that. What? How long is it? 7-ish years?
I'd say more than that.
More than
well,
that?
Prison Break, we did a show together, but we never really worked together. So we did Prison Break, but on that show, you're either being hunted or hunting. So I was hunting and he was being hunted. So I never, when you got close to each other, it was close to your end. You're like, when you started working with other people, you were like, it was time. It was almost time. So, you'd leaf through the script like this for the next one. But we actually study with the same acting coach.
Yep.
And we have for a long time. As a matter of fact, we were working on a scene together when we both got the call for Grimm.
Isn't that funny?
So-
it was one of those things.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
This show has been filled with a lot of one of those things,
It has.
and that was really one of them. We were
Yeah.
doing Beckett by Jean Ennui, like
Crazy.
the most, the sort of like arcane-ish kind of story about 13th or 14th century.
Not Grimm.
England, not Grimm.
It was not Grimm.
And we both
No.
landed Grimm. It was exciting.
And Reggie, you originally auditioned for the role of Hank, right?
I did, actually. I was, yeah. I mean, I auditioned for the role of Hank, and it had come down to 3 of us going to networks. So what happens is you go to studio, and then after that, they narrow it down a little more, and then you go to network, just to put you through a little more agony. And, you know, it's actually like this. It's kind of like this. You're in a group of people, like there are execs out there, and then you're up here doing your scene.
Except the people, when you're testing, are not looking at you like as, you know, compatriots. They're looking at you like this.
That's very true. That's very true.
Just saying.
Just
But
saying.
you made it past that.
So yeah, no, and when we got out of there, you know, it was interesting because I was walking out of the parking lot with Russell Hornsby, who got the role, and I said, if I don't get it, I hope you get it. We were kind of pulling for the minority card to happen. So and 10 minutes later, he had the role, and I was about to test for. It was a good year, as far as I would say Asian Americans go, and I you know, it's either like you test for nothing or you test for 10. So that was a year where I was about to test for 2 more the following week, and my agent Mark Scroggs, who is here, will attest. I was just about to go in to test for Awake and The River, and that evening I got a call, and he said, "Listen, they liked you on Grimm. They want to write a role for you. Would you be interested in that?" Would I be interested in that? Stop the testing process. No, but it was I you know, I wanted to find out more about the role, of course. And so, you know, they told me a little about what this guy was going to be like and what was going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And I knew Silas was in it. Man, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more. I was really at that particular point. I said, just stop.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go through any more agony of testing, and I fortunately boarded a very, very wonderful
You
train.
picked the winner.
I did. I lucked out. So
We all did. It really
we did.
It's a good gig.
And you guys shoot in Portland. And what most surprised you about shooting there? How did it turn out any differently than what you expected?
I mean, I had never been to Portland at all.
Neither had I.
And I have a sister in Seattle, so I knew I knew where it was.
I didn't know where it was.
I actually have a sister and a sister who lives in the other Portland. So I was like, oh, okay, Portland, rain. And we got there, and it rained its ass off for the pilot.
I think it rained 33 days out of
It
the
did. It
31
rained
days in the
every
month.
day. It was
Yeah,
March of
it was
2011, and it didn't
every
rain
day.
all day every day, but it rained every day. And a lot of it was at night, and one of the most treacherous shoots, still, I think, to this day, was on the pilot, just in terms of night, cold, hillside, gravel, tons of rain. The gravel starts loosening. We're on a bridge. It was. You realize the sort of what's the word? Not cauldron, but when the initial period of something when you. What's the word I'm looking for? The crucible. It was the crucible because you realized that this was going to be sort of the way it's going to go, is you're going to have a lot of cold, hard nights. And it is that, but it's so worth it because I was directing a play a while back and I realized trees make the best trees. Like I was trying to figure out like, what do I use to make the trees I was doing the cherry or Three Sisters, and I wanted the birch orchard in the back, and I was like, what do I use? Do I use pipe cleaner or do I use this? And I was like, oh, go rent birch trees. So I did, because trees make the best trees. So you can't do it anywhere but there. You can't be in a rainforest in LA. You can't be in the Black Forest, where a lot of the Grimm fairy tales took place in LA, really.
You know, it's interesting, though, that we'll literally have like a forest scene, and there's a forest like maybe 10 minutes from us. But they'll take us like an hour and a half away to like a different forest that looks exactly the same as the one that's 10 minutes away.
The director wanted that forest.
That forest
I've always
for
wondered.
the rain.
I've always wondered, how do you location scout for a forest?
Oh, there's
got a way to figure
Oregon has like it's so diverse in terms of its terrain. It's
You have a
really, you
producer
guys
who
are
knows,
beautiful.
like, you want a hill, we got forests with hills, we got forests with groves, we've got forests with sparse trees, we got forests with brush, we got forests with this, they all kinds of forests. I mean, literally, it is a rainforest, apparently, 15 feet of rain per year. That's a lot of rain. I'd rather live in a rainforest than a desert, though. Like,
Portland.
Sorry.
However, though, it was a really nice surprise. I mean, it is. I mean, you guys know. I mean, working out of town is sometimes much more freeing and fulfilling than working in town. When you have the networks here and the studios here, there you're kind of free and you feel free to kind of do your work and explore and be creative, and you don't have a lot of that at your back. So not just Portland itself, but it was a nice surprise to be out of LA and working. But Portland is a gem. It really is. Just the food is ridiculous. I think we
ruined me
talk
for
about
coffee.
Oh my God, our cholesterol
can't drink
levels have
coffee
gone
anymore.
up like so bad. It's the physicals the next year, they were off the charts. But but the second year we were like, okay, chill out, calm down, don't eat as much.
exactly, you don't have to eat out every
Every time.
meal.
Yeah, but yeah, that was wonderful. The people are great, and it's just nice to be. You know, we kind of knew each other from the pilot, so that calmed me down as soon as we. Aside from getting the series, which was like winning the lottery. I always say it's like winning a lottery.
It is.
But knowing that you had already worked with the people that you were going to be with out of town was a nice thing.
Rather than the parachuting in to some,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that. Has anybody been to Portland? Does anybody here know Portland? Yeah. It's a great town, right? I mean, it's a lovely place. Yeah. So you know.
Yeah, we lucked out. Plus, you know, same time zone. It's so easy to come home. It's all of the above.
So for both of you, kind of part of your job on the show is to supply information to both Nick and to the audience. And, you know, whether it's Wu, you know, explaining what just happened at some weird crime scene, or Monroe, you know, filling in Nick on the history of a certain vessel. So, and of course, you know, what's fun about those moments is, you know, the humor of your characters shine through a little bit. Like Wu's got his dry, sarcastic remarks about whatever crime scene they're at. But I want to hear from you guys, what do you think is the key to keeping, you know, expositional information entertaining?
Well, not to think of it as exposition. I think that's the first thing, because I mean, you know, I think we both, if I may speak for us, we work pretty similarly in the way we work, and so you know, we've for instance, I mean, me as Wu, I've probably been a cop for about like 15 years, you know, and so that stuff is kind of rolling off my tongue, and it's stuff that I do every day, you know, and I have a manner about me, but it is stuff that is to me interesting. You know, if it's not interesting to you, then it's not going to be interesting to anybody else. So I think of it as exposition. It's my job. That's my job. You know, and I have this relationship with these guys that provides that kind of dryness. You know, it's the way I like to be with them. It's the way I like to be. So.
And for me, in addition to agreeing with all of that, as far as living inside it, which is, it's not exposition, it's whatever's happening that day. And in addition to that, for me, the stuff that I'm expositing is different from what Reggie's describing, because what Reggie's describing are generally things that, although strange, for example, cow mutilations and ovary abscondings, I'm talking about things that I mean, that's on the outer reaches, don't get me wrong.
No, but I get you.
But you know what I mean? Like the stuff that I'm talking about a lot of the time are things that are totally imaginary. Like they're totally made up. So to describe those things is a delight, because they're completely other, and yet you treat them as, yeah, well, that's that. I mean, what do you think it was? You know what I mean? And it's really fun to have a kind of like duh mentality about something that's like outside of Pluto's orbit. You know what I mean?
So you guys got to see what it was like to, you know, air the show on a couple different nights this season. got to try out Mondays for a little while, and now Tuesday. I think at the very beginning of the season.
Oh, we did?
Yep.
No
Yep.
kidding. Yeah, right after the Olympics.
Yeah. And then
After the
Revolution took
Olympics,
over
yeah.
at times.
Is that right, Mark? Yeah.
What are you? And now season 3 renewal going back to Fridays.
We're a Friday night show.
No, we are,
Fridays.
and we like
Grim
it there.
Fridays. You like that?
We
Why
love
do you
it
like
there.
it there?
That's the way my whole thing is like it's a family thing, that the kids can stay up a little late with the folks on a Friday night and watch a creature feature. And we're not, ER, you know what I'm saying? 10 o'clock on Tuesdays is for another type of show, I think.
It is, and it's interesting because I never knew that going into this show. I never knew that Fridays were like a genre night, and Tuesdays were this night, and this was that night. I was just like, I'm just glad to be on a night. So, I was just. But now you're learning all these things, and it starts to like play with your mind a little bit. It's like, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know. It doesn't matter what night I'm on. Let them deal with that, and I'll deal with my own work. Because once you start getting into that frame of mind of worrying about what night you're on, or what publicity you have to do there or there, which is wonderful, but at the same time, I like to go back to basics and just kind of like go, I'm here to play pretend.
And live this life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You got to keep the walls up a little bit. You sort of let a little bit in. Like, okay, you read the reports or you get the email from your friend that's like, oh, look, you're on this night. But then you have to kind of be like, okay, I'm not going to like scour the Hollywood Reporter. I'm not going to.
And it's easy. It's easy to get pulled into that like stuff, and it's daily. Like anything, even when I was first starting out, it's easy to get pulled into like just the business aspect of things, right? And then you forget about, the whole creative aspect of things, And especially I'd say being what I know, being Asian American, and trying so hard to just kind of like pummel through and just get a role as a co-star for something, in that time was really tough. And so you had to kind of really work at that and then forget about it once you got there, and enjoy the other stuff.
And Silas, you have, since I guess it was maybe mid-season 1 that we first met Rosalee, you've had a really sweet storyline with her. Had you gotten to do much love story stuff with your other characters before?
It depends on what you mean by love.
Okay. What?
I mean, there's some obsessed guys, There was one married guy I played on Medium. There's one episode I did of Medium where it was actually really fun. I had talk about living the experience, right? That the words on the page are just the map. But this was a guy who had someone come into his house, hold a loaded weapon to his head and say to his wife's head and say, if you love her. See, I'm going to forget the exact details, but basically, the guy said, if you don't tell me to shoot your wife, I'm going to shoot you. And I said, okay, and he did it, and she actually got killed. And I have this scene where I'm explaining what I've done. And so that's like a love scene in a way.
I had so forgotten what the original question was.
It's like, because the work on it is about how much you love your wife, whom you just see blown away in front of you. Like I was flecked with blood, So look, I won't get into the gory details, but as far as like sweetness and light, not a lot of that, no.
So now that you have gotten to explore that, what has it been like getting to explore kind of that softer side of a character?
It's delightful. I mean, it really is, and it's just fun. This is what I say, and I really mean it. I really like living in the way that Monroe thinks. I like thinking in there, and it's a fun place to be pulled around in, because really when you're doing serialized television, you get the scripts, you absorb them, and you go where they pull you. And being pulled around through the stories that these guys write is really, really fun. And to work with someone like Bree, who just is such a sweetheart. she's just a lovely soul, you know?
Yeah, she jumped in. She got the role literally a day before, and
Her
she had a
first
lot of
day.
dialogue. The day she got there, and then the day that she had to work, it was all her.
Yeah.
And so she had to
was
learn
like,
all
"Oh,
that.
I'll have a little-"
And she did it with like ease.
She's descended of football players. I mean, her dad was like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she's got like, she's really got sand, and she's great. So to be able to work with someone whom you actually enjoy to be around when you're doing romantic stuff is also great, because how terrible would it be to have to go to work and be like, oh my God. And it's not like that. It's not like that. So again, lucky.
And more and more on the show, there are characters who are getting in the know about, who Nick really is, the world of the Besson, but Wu still is, in the dark about all that.
I don't know crap. I don't know crap. I've been asked this question quite a few times. Do you like not knowing, or do you want to know? Of course, I mean, every time I see a script, I'm like, please let it be this episode. Let me know. Let me find out, please. But
then you get to say things like, the truth is out there. It's like, you don't know how true that is, you know?
don't get me wrong. I love again, like Silas. I love living in this character. He's fun, and I don't know. I don't know what they call my character kind of the wild card of the show. You can take him in any direction, which is exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time.
That's what Haywire was. I said that I used that term.
Really?
I did. Because they write themselves into a corner, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, Haywire could do something totally crazy here, and that'll get us out of it.
I was like, you can do anything, just don't kill me. You do anything you want, at all.
We wouldn't want them to kill you either. So how have you pictured in your head what it would be like if Wu, once he found out how
I
that scene
can't
would
tell
play
you that
out?
I haven't. I can't tell you that I haven't gone into this imaginary place where I would think about how it's so hard, because I know it from the outside, and then to go on the inside is now. I'd have to sit there for hours, as we do, and kind of imagine that situation and feel it and see what it would really feel like. I can tell you that. Yeah, I've been told some things about the next season, so you guys just have to wait.
But when
You
you,
have to keep watching.
it's true when you think about it. If you think about this as being really real,
Yeah,
when people in front of you and they can do it,
it's cool.
oh my God, that would blow.
Yeah.
It would rip your soul open.
Yeah. No, yeah, really. It's a fun thing. And that was a thing when we were first doing the show. There was this whole thing, Once Upon a Time, I think, came out at the same time, and they kept asking us, what differentiates these two shows? And it was always that our show just happens in the real world versus a fantasy world and a real world. So we always take that premise to heart, is that this is really happening right here, right now in Portland.
And it does reflect the reality of our world. In fact, there was a newspaper article about the guy in Cleveland, okay, who had the women, right, in his house. Okay, there was a quote by a neighbor who said, that was a hell of a human mask to cover a monster. I mean, I think I get chills when I think about it, because I'm like, this stuff that whatever they're on to on this show, in a lot of ways, is really real about the world we live in, like Son of Sam and just what's his name, Jeffrey Dahmer, and these people are monstrous people who sit down, they go to McDonald's, and they go over to their grandmothers, and they talk to their grandma, and then they go and drill holes in people's heads. And it's a scary, scary world we live in, but it's real.
It is real.
It's
I mean,
real.
but
And that's
also
what's
imagine
cool
being
about
that
it.
person.
Right.
And what drives you to do that kind of, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is exciting. These guys, they're on to something.
Terrible. But it is. I mean, for those of you that are actors, I mean, it's a glorious, it is. I mean,
fun world to live
to quote our coach, it's a glorious profession.
Yeah.
It's one of the best. You just get to play pretend.
It's fun.
Do you guys watch the show? Do you like watching yourself on TV, or do you avoid that?
You're so much more of a purist about this than I am, because we are well, well, just that the person the man that we've worked under, I'm going to say his name because his name is Harry Mastro George. He's just one of the old school, all-time great teachers of this thing that we do, which is acting. And he advises generally not to look at your own work on the basis, as far as I can understand, is that it just builds up the mechanism of self-awareness that you don't want in the experience of acting. That acting is about playing pretend and pretending so deeply that it becomes real, that you're living another life and experiencing an imaginary event as deeply as you can. And anything that corrupts that or gets in the way of that or makes you think like an actor and get outside of it and judge it and direct it and blah, blah. So the idea is not to look at your own work. And generally I do that, but my wife loves the show. So I found myself, I've seen a bunch of episodes and I also want to direct, you know? So I'm like, I want to know what the camera did when I was there, that I saw how he did that and I see what it looks like and I know what he did. Because I do want to direct. So anyway, as a rule, no. But you're more of a pure.
No, that's right. I mean, the directing thing is right. When you said that, I immediately am on board with you in terms of, like, if you're going to want to direct a show, you're going to want to see camera angles. But I am, yeah. I mean, I don't. I start to easy. You start to direct yourself, and you don't want to direct yourself. You don't. It's not what I want to do. At least I want to take it from here and then go from there. And ultimately, you will start directing yourself. Unless there's something technical that they need you to take a look at, I do not go to that monitor to watch, whatever, playback or anything, So it's, you can feel it, though. You can feel if you want another take, and that's something I've learned to ask for, is another take. I'd like another one, I could ask for 50. But, I mean, with serialized television, you got to move on. It's like 2 takes and it's 2 or 3 takes and then you're done. You got to keep going. It's not like movies. But yeah, I would prefer, I don't watch the show, but my parents love it, so my little 5-year-old and 4-year-old nieces love it.
Too young.
I can't believe it. I can't believe my brother lets them watch it. I said, cover their eyes or something.
PG-12.
Terrible.
What were you just saying about families?
No, PG-12.
Right. So Silas, we might see an episode directed by you in the near future?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, if the show goes long enough, I mean, I saw on, what was it, Mad Men, I think those guys started directing episodes in like season 5 maybe or 4, so it's like, we'll see. And also, I know a guy on Parenthood who we share an agent, and he directed in season 3 or something. But that's also a very different type of show. That's a little more talking heads.
Sure. Versus
and
this
our show
sci-fi
is kind of a major I mean, you've got Moscow lights that are a quarter of a mile away on a hillside lighting. It's a cinematic thing. So it's not the move the camera around a kitchen table type deal. Not to besmirch it in any way. It's just, it's a complicated show, our show. There's a lot of moving parts.
We don't have people turning into monsters on Parenthood.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little bit more different. More complicated. A lot of post-production, yeah.
What do you guys remember from when you first got your SAG cards?
That it was plastic.
That's it.
No, I remember. I seriously remember wanting it so badly, and I was more of a. I started out doing stage work, and I started out doing Broadway stuff in New York, and then I came back here, and I remember getting an AFTRA gig that I was a principal, and I thought, oh, that's a way in. Because back then, and I don't know if it's that way now, is that if you have a principal contract in another guild, another union, you can buy into SAG. So I immediately bought into SAG, and I don't regret it one iota.
Well, I think I'm going to turn to some questions that the audience submitted before the screening. So let's see here. So this question is from Ron Rue. So thanks, Ron, wherever you are, for submitting this question. First, he has two questions here. Do you plan to go camping in Portland ever?
Totally.
Have you guys been camping around
No,
there?
but I've been down to the river and gone swimming in the river for an afternoon and
You did?
picnicked. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was really hot.
Wow.
It was worth it. It's a little bit of a hike, but I've never been. I'm a water person, but I've never been a river person. I'm an ocean or a lake. So it was another.
It's beautiful. Have you been there? Yeah, it's gorgeous. Because there's a lot of vesting in Portland, right?
You have to get rid
Just
of all
look
the
behind the trees when you're setting up.
And the other question here is, how do you prepare for the wolf transformation, for your Glute bod transformation?
It's all on the basis of the story. You know what I mean? It all depends on what is happening in the story, and there are, kind of a circumscribed set of experiences that can activate that thing. Total fear, like with Vulcanalis, when the guy comes out of the thing, and I'm freaking out with terror because I basically feel like I'm about to meet Satan. That'll do it. But also like total aggression, like I'm going to rip your arm. So it just depends on whatever is driving the behavior.
This next question is from Marcy Goldman. And you were both such despicable characters on Prison Break, and and you have played such
Where's Marcy?
slimy characters.
He was? What do you mean despicable?
So, and you played some pretty slimy characters in many shows. How does it feel to play the good guys for a change?
I don't ever feel like I'm playing a slimy character. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's when I'm playing a bad guy, I usually don't think of him as a bad guy. So he's just getting his job done and doing what he needs to do. Or doing what I need to do. And I feel the same with this character. But I think, this character, I'm really enjoying playing a quote unquote good guy, but I don't think he's all good. So everyone's got those little dimensions about them that those little nooks and crannies that make them a full life. So I enjoy being a cop and that being at the forefront for once, being on the other side of the law.
And I certainly enjoy the idea of a character, and again, it's part of the story, is that I am trying to live as a nice guy in the story, in an effort to disavow the kind of bloody ancestry that I am descended of. So it's definitely different to, look, every life experience is totally different. So it's hard to put a judgment on it. But I do notice a difference playing someone who has a real sweetness at their core. I do notice a difference of the experience that I'm having, for sure.
And the wonderful thing about serialized television is that now going into a third season, week after week, day after day, you get a little deeper. Yeah. You find a little more. You discover a little more that wasn't there before, and you go, wow, okay, that's completely different, but that felt real to me. So that's a joy.
This question is from Eric Prince. Do you plan on doing any more films? I don't know if you have any breaks between Grimm shooting.
It's hard.
Plan?
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it was up to me.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but
absolutely.
it's hard. A lot of people be like, "Oh, you're on a TV show. Forget it. We can't schedule around you. We're not going to bother."
Or
And-
some people will go, "What else are you doing?" Like during the season when you
Right.
can't really do anything
Yeah,
else.
exactly. So are you working on? Are you
what
working on
else are you
anything
working
else?
on?
Like Grimm isn't enough.
Do you know what our hours are?
This question is from someone who wrote, I'm shy, so mystery question here. If you could be any Vesson or create any Vesson, what would you be?
It's hard not to say that I want to be, got to be me. So, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, I think I'd be a weasel, but I think I already am in the show, so I think that'd be fun. I'd be a weasel. Yeah.
Another question from the same person here. If you could be on any movie or TV show, past or present, what would it be besides Grimm?
Homeland.
Yeah.
Deadwood.
Yeah. So we need to start, hinting at the Homeland guys.
yeah,
We need to get
yeah.
Reggie a Kestrel.
Read regret. Yeah, I had my chance as.
Who would you have played if?
Oh, no, I could have been on, I don't even remember the name of the character. I auditioned 3 times and I blocked them out because, maybe twice, because I revere David Milch on a level that is sort of overweening revere. And I think I choked. I choked. I was thinking like an actor.
Yeah.
I
Well, that
wanted,
happens to-
I
that
wanted
happens to
the
everybody,
job
so-
more than I wanted to live the life. You know what I mean? And when you want the job and those desires of Silas kind of override the desires of the character, then you're going to interrupt the experience, and that's what happened.
That happens before every audition, though. That's like something you go, that process of like, I want the job, and then you got to get it out of your mind to not want
And the
want
more
job.
important it is, the harder it is to remove it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And I literally worked with him on NYPD Blue twice, and I swear he's a modern genius. He's crazy. There's tons of stories about him, this, that, and the other. The guy he's really something else. And yeah, Deadwood.
All right. Well, if they revive that like they're reviving Veronica Mars, we can get you a role on Deadwood again.
Why are you teasing me with this?
Kickstarter Deadwood. Well, my last question for you guys tonight is what do you know now about the industry that you wish you had known at the beginning of your careers?
Oh, boy. I mean, I think it's... I equate very much of the industry to life. So for me, I can only say for me, is to just chill out. There was just so much about beginning that was just so angst-ridden and anxiety about getting jobs and whatnot. And if you just give yourself the space to breathe and to chill out, kind of like life, I think the creative juices start to flow and really great work starts to flow. Whether you're in an audition situation or whatever it is. But if I would have known to just chill out, I think I would have had a sweeter experience.
I think I would probably say something that's probably a reframing of that, which is stay. If you can find, I don't know if this is something that I didn't know then or I knew it in my heart then and I became conscious later, but here's something that it dawned on me a few years ago. If you can find joy in auditioning, and if you're doing it just because it's fun to do, and the fact that auditioning is not about what we were just describing, my experience with David Milch. If you can do it for the love of the game and the fun of it in itself, regardless of outcome, if you can actually live that, then you're going to be good to go. Because whatever you're doing is going to be fun for you and fulfilling for you. That will lead to work. If you're doing it to be good and to get the thing, and we all do that. We all start out trying to be good. And as our teacher would say, that's totally natural. It's just unproductive to try to be good. It's totally normal, but it is not going to do you any good. You have to do it for its own sake. That was my piece of advice.
Well, thanks so much for taking some time out, Reggie and Silas.
Thanks for being here, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.